Hi, I'm Dr. Walter Matwichuk, and I'm here to talk to you about a simple idea that can have a profound influence upon your emotional reactions. I often say to patients, what is under your control in the circumstances that you find yourself in? People very often look to control variables that are beyond their reach and overlook taking advantage of the variables that are well within their reach. And I'm a little surprised when patients often talk to me about how just asking themselves that question can provide them with a great deal of emotional relief. There's so much beyond our control, and what is important to do is, rather than trying to change other people or events that are beyond your reach, to look first to work inside out. And one thing that's well within your domain of influence and largely within your control is your attitude towards adversity. So it's very important that you stop when you're facing adversity and ask yourself the simple question: what is it that I can control? Well, I can control how I think about the adversity I'm encountering. I can control, to a large extent, my feelings. Now, I don't have infinite control over my feelings. So when bad events happen, you don't have sufficient control over your feelings to feel good. However, you can feel only sad or disappointed, or you could be devastated. And what REBT, Rational Emotive Behavior Therapy, is helping you to do is to take advantage of the variables that are well within your control and then to leverage them. So your attitude towards adversity will enable you to avoid feeling despair when facing adversity, but feeling disappointed and sad. Then, as a second step, you can try to influence circumstances that are not within your direct influence. So, for example, you could try to persuade people to think a different way about a matter that you're having a conflict with them. You may figure out how to circumvent a problem whereby you get to where you're going through a different path. But most people do not appreciate the power that lies within the attitude that they choose towards adversity. REBT is predicated on the notion that has been around for 2,000 years. Epictetus said that people are not disturbed by things, but by their views of them. And REBT modifies that dictum to emphasizing the important role our attitudes play, and that we argue that rigid and extreme attitudes towards events and other people will lead to emotional disturbance and self-defeating behavior. And we argue that flexible and non-extreme attitudes will lead to healthy emotional reactions. And REBT is all about the pursuit of psychological health and then working towards changing what you can change. And when we have flexible attitudes, which are sometimes hard to hold on to or hard to adopt when the matter at hand is an important one, we tend to have far more effective behavioral responses and far more effective emotional responses. So the core idea of today's video is this idea that we first want to take a deep breath and ask ourselves this simple idea: what's within my control in this situation? And work on that first. And then, as a close second step, work on changing or influencing, at least, some other party or some circumstance outside of yourself. This is a profound idea, so I would encourage you to remind yourself every day to ask it: what is within my control and what is outside of my reach? And if you work on the inside, or you work inside out, so to speak, you're going to be in a better position to change what you can change with a certain degree of poise, because healthy negative emotions tend to lead to better behavioral outcomes than unhealthy negative emotions. REBT is unique in that we don't try to help people dampen down negative emotion. We want people to have qualitatively different negative emotions, healthy negative emotions when they're facing adversity. And healthy negative emotions come from flexible and non-extreme thinking, whereas rigid and extreme attitudes, like people have to do things my way, or life has to be fair, or life has to be easy, and it's awful when it's not. These rigid and extreme attitudes lead to unhealthy negative emotions. Now, when people don't bother to ask this question, the main thrust of their efforts to improve things is to change what's outside of themselves. The only problem with doing that is that, one, if we're in an unhealthy emotional state, we may be pretty heavy-handed in our efforts to influence or change circumstances and actually make matters worse. And two, there are circumstances where we really can't do much and our hands are tied. However, there's a way out through philosophy, and REBT is really a psychotherapy, a system of ideas, or a philosophy, however you care to think about this useful tool, which aims to help you when your worst nightmare occurs and there's really no good practical solution to your problems. I would also like to remind you that every Saturday I do a demonstration of these powerful ideas. It's free to attend. It's on Zoom. You just have to have the link. Write to me at rebtdoctor@gmail.com and I'll send you the link. It's at 9 a.m. here in New York, which is, I think, 2 p.m. in the UK, 4 p.m. in Bucharest, 6:30 in India. You can go to my website, rebtdoctor.com, and check the different times across the world. We have a worldwide audience, and it's a great way to learn how to think differently and also come up with some pretty clever behavioral responses to adversity. But again, in REBT, we're always arguing that you start working inside out with your attitude towards adversity, and then you go to change external circumstances, if you can, or at least work on trying to change them and influencing others. I hope to see you on Saturday, but more importantly, I hope you remember to say to yourself, what's under my control, what's beyond my reach, and then put all your effort in focusing on variables that are within your domain of influence, within your control, and not waste time pursuing things that are outside of your reach.